7 legendary cowboys lay broken after facing Red Rock, the most feared bull in rodeo history. $75 to whoever rides him for 8 seconds, the promoter announced. Frost quietly signed up without telling his wife. What happened in that arena became the most legendary ride in rodeo history. Subscribe and comment what state you're watching from. Do you think love is worth risking everything for? Let's dive in. The dust hadn't even settled from the last cowboy's devastating fall when the arena announcer's voice boomed across Cheyenne frontier days. Ladies and gentlemen, Red Rock has just claimed his 7th victim this season. 7 of the best riders in professional rodeo, and not one has lasted more than 3 seconds on this 2,000-pound beast. The crowd fell silent as paramedics carried off Jake Morrison, a veteran with 15 years of experience, his leg twisted at an unnatural angle. Red Rock snorted and pawed at the dirt in his pen, steam rising from his massive black hide in the cool Wyoming evening. This wasn't just any bull. This was a legend of destruction, a creature that had ended careers and shattered dreams. In the competitors' area, cowboys whispered among themselves, stealing glances at the sign-up sheet that remained ominously empty. The $75,000 prize money, the largest purse ever offered for a single ride, sat unclaimed. For most riders, no amount of money was worth 8 seconds with Red Rock. But Lane Frost wasn't like most riders. Standing 6 feet tall with calloused hands and determination etched in every line of his face, Lane had been watching from the shadows. At 24, he was already considered one of the rising stars of professional rodeo. But rising stars didn't pay the bills. The family ranch back in Oklahoma was drowning in debt after a devastating drought, and his father's medical bills from a recent heart attack were piling up like storm clouds. His wife Kelly sat in the stands, her blonde hair catching the arena lights as she cheered for other riders, blissfully unaware of the decision weighing on her husband's mind. They'd been married just 2 years, and every night she prayed for his safety. Lane had promised her he'd be careful, that he'd avoid the truly dangerous bulls. Red Rock was the definition of dangerous. The bull's reputation preceded him everywhere he went. Born on a ranch in South Dakota, Red Rock had been bucking professionally for 3 years and had never been successfully ridden. Not once. His technique was brutal and calculated, a violent spinning motion followed by bone-jarring kicks that could launch a rider 20 feet through the air. The 7 cowboys who'd tried him this season told horror stories of feeling completely helpless, of being ragdolled like children's toys. "Nobody's signing up," muttered Tom Bradley, a stock contractor who'd been in the business for 30 years. "Can't say I blame them. That bull's got the devil in him." Lane approached the sign-up table slowly, his boots echoing against the concrete floor of the competitors' area. The volunteer behind the table, an elderly woman with kind eyes, looked up at him with surprise. "You sure about this, honey?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've seen a lot of cowboys in my day, and that bull, well, he's something else entirely." Lane picked up the pen, its weight feeling heavier than any bull rope he'd ever held. Behind him, conversations stopped. Cowboys turned to stare. Word began spreading through the arena like wildfire. Someone was actually going to try Red Rock. "Lane Frost," he said simply, signing his name with steady strokes. The woman's face went pale. "Does your wife know?" Lane glanced toward the stands where Kelly was laughing with some of the other wives, completely oblivious to what her husband had just committed to. His throat tightened. "She will soon enough." Within minutes, the news had reached the announcer's booth. "Folks, we have a rider. Lane Frost of Oklahoma has just signed up to face Red Rock." The crowd erupted in a mixture of cheers and gasps. In the stands, Kelly's laughter died on her lips as she processed what she'd just heard. Her husband, the man she'd fallen in love with for his gentle heart and protective nature, had just volunteered to climb onto the back of a killer. The walk back to the hotel that night felt like a funeral march. Kelly hadn't spoken a word since they left the arena, her arms wrapped tightly around herself as they navigated the crowded Cheyenne streets. Lane could feel the tension radiating from her with every step. Their hotel room was small and modest. Nothing fancy, just a bed, a dresser, and a window overlooking the neon signs of downtown Cheyenne. The moment the door closed behind them, Kelly exploded. "Are you out of your mind?" she screamed, her voice cracking with emotion. 7 cowboys, Lane. 7 professional riders got destroyed by that thing, and you think you're somehow different? Lane sat heavily on the edge of the bed, his cowboy hat in his hands. "Kelly, you don't understand the situation we're in. The ranch—" "I don't care about the ranch," she interrupted, tears streaming down her face. "I care about my husband coming home in one piece. I care about not becoming a widow at 22. "The medical bills alone are killing her," Lane said quietly. "Dad's insurance didn't cover everything, and the drought wiped out our cattle operation. We're 3 months behind on the mortgage, Kelly. 3 months. So we sell the ranch. So we start over somewhere else. There are other ways to make money that don't involve getting trampled to death." Lane stood up, his own frustration finally boiling over. "That ranch has been in my family for 4 generations. My great-grandfather built it with his bare hands. I'm not going to be the one who loses it because I was too scared to take a chance." "Too scared?" Kelly's voice rose to a shriek. "Lane, being scared of Red Rock isn't cowardice, it's sanity. That bull has put 3 riders in the hospital this year alone. Jake Morrison might never walk right again." The argument continued past midnight, voices rising and falling like the tide. Neighbors knocked on the wall twice, telling them to keep it down. But neither Lane nor Kelly could find common ground. She begged, she pleaded, she threatened to leave. He remained resolute, explaining over and over about family legacy, about responsibility, about the weight of providing for those he loved. Finally, exhausted and emotionally drained, Kelly collapsed into a chair by the window. "If you do this," she whispered, "if you climb on that bull tomorrow, I won't watch. I can't watch the man I love get killed." Lane knelt beside her chair, taking her trembling hands in his. "I'm not going to get killed, Kelly. I'm going to ride that bull for 8 seconds, collect that money, and save our family's future." "How can you be so sure?" "Because I have something those other 7 cowboys didn't have," he said, his voice steady and calm for the first time all evening. "What's that?" "I have everything to live for." The next morning dawned gray and overcast, with storm clouds gathering on the horizon. Lane woke early and spent an hour in prayer, something he'd done before every important ride since he was a teenager. Kelly pretended to sleep, but he could tell from her breathing that she was awake, listening to every word he whispered to the ceiling. At the arena, word of the upcoming ride had spread beyond the rodeo community. Ticket sales for the evening performance had sold out, and scalpers were getting 3 times face value from people who'd driven hundreds of miles just to witness what many believed would be either the greatest ride in rodeo history or a catastrophic disaster. In the stock pens, Red Rock seemed to sense the anticipation. The massive bull stood apart from the other animals, his dark eyes fixed on the activity around him with an intelligence that made seasoned cowboys uncomfortable. Stock contractors had seen a lot of bulls over the years, but Red Rock was different. He didn't just want to throw riders. He seemed to enjoy it. "You still got time to back out," offered Charlie Morrison, Jake's older brother. "Nobody would think less of you." Lane was wrapping his hands, preparing his equipment with the methodical precision of a surgeon. "I didn't come this far to back out now." The countdown had begun. The arena filled beyond capacity as evening fell over Cheyenne. People stood 3 deep along the rails, and the announcer's voice carried an electric energy that made even veteran cowboys feel their hearts racing. In the competitors' area, Lane went through his ritual, checking his rope, adjusting his protective vest, and saying a final prayer. Kelly had kept her word. She wasn't in the stands. Instead, she waited in their hotel room, staring at the ceiling and listening to the distant roar of the crowd. Every cheer made her stomach twist with anxiety. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed. "In 43 years of professional rodeo, I have never seen anything like what we're about to witness. Lane Frost, weighing in at 165 pounds, versus Red Rock at 100 pounds of pure fury. 8 seconds will determine if we witness history or heartbreak." In the chute, Red Rock was a coiled spring of muscle and rage. His massive head thrashed from side to side as cowboys worked to get Lane's rope positioned. The bull's eyes seemed to burn with an otherworldly fire, and more than one experienced hand stepped back involuntarily. Lane lowered himself onto Red Rock's back with the calm precision of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. But everyone watching knew this was different. The bull's hide felt like sitting on a volcano about to erupt. Lane wrapped the rope around his gloved hand, testing the grip that would either secure his victory or seal his fate. "You ready, son?" asked the gate operator, his voice barely audible over the crowd's roar. Lane nodded once, pulling his hat down tight. "Turn him loose." The gate exploded open. Red Rock launched out of the chute like a freight train derailing, his front hooves barely touching the ground before he twisted his massive body into a violent spin. The crowd gasped as Lane's body whipped through the air, but somehow he stayed centered, his free arm pumping for balance. 3 seconds. Red Rock changed directions without warning, a move that had sent Jake Morrison flying into the arena wall. But Lane anticipated it, shifting his weight and riding the bull's momentum instead of fighting it. 5 seconds. The bull tried his signature move, a bone-jarring kick combined with a sideways leap that created forces no human body was meant to withstand. Lane's back arched as he absorbed the impact, his face a mask of concentration and pain. 7 seconds. Red Rock made one final desperate attempt to rid himself of his rider, launching into a series of spinning jumps that blurred the line between bull and tornado. The crowd was on its feet, counting down in unison. 8! The horn sounded and Lane leaped from Red Rock's back, landing on his feet in the dirt as the bull continued his rampage around the arena. For a moment, the entire stadium fell silent, as if 15 Zalaran people couldn't quite believe what they'd just witnessed. Then the place erupted. Cowboys in the competitors' area threw their hats in the air. Spectators screamed themselves hoarse. The announcer could barely contain his excitement as he declared Lane Frost the first man to successfully ride Red Rock in the bull's entire professional career. In the hotel room miles away, Kelly heard the distant explosion of cheers and knew immediately what had happened. Her husband had done the impossible. Relief flooded through her body as tears streamed down her face, tears of joy, terror, and overwhelming gratitude. Lane stood in the center of the arena, dirt covering his clothes and a grin splitting his face from ear to ear. The $75 annual check would save the family ranch. But more importantly, he'd proven that sometimes the biggest risks yield the greatest rewards. As he walked toward the exit, acknowledging the crowd's thunderous applause, Lane thought about courage, how it wasn't the absence of fear but the decision to act in spite of it. He'd been terrified of Red Rock, terrified of failing his family, and terrified of losing everything he held dear. But sometimes, when everything you love is on the line, fear becomes fuel for greatness. Red Rock was eventually retired from professional rodeo, having been conquered only once in his legendary career. Lane Frost's 8-second ride became the stuff of legend, a story told and retold wherever cowboys gathered to talk about the day a man with everything to lose chose to risk it all for everything he loved.